Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome for another episode of Tatami Talk. My name is Juan. This is my Kumar Anthony. This is a judo podcast for judo players by two judo players. So I just want to make a little announcement now. My internet is being terrible with me today. So there's going to be some weird delays and little gaps in between when we talk sometimes. Okay. So just to let you guys know that's what's happening. And Anthony's feeling great today too. He's over his cold, so he won't be hacking in the background.
I'm still coughing sometimes, but the frequency of the cough attacks are less. So it's been better. And as you know, for those who know, I was in New York City over this last weekend. Yesterday? 2 days ago?
2 days ago.
Yeah. So I was flying and I didn't cough throughout the flight, but then I was coughing like crazy in the hotel. So yeah.
All right. So we have a lot of stuff we want to talk about today. We have a few little small things in the beginning and then two main things in the back. So one of the first thing I want to get through is this is kind of a big thing for most people that are Japanese culturists, love pro wrestling, love Japanese culture and stuff, or Japanese pro wrestling. Antonio Inoki passed away this past weekend. So here in the US, he passed away Friday night. In Japan, it was this Saturday morning. He's been sick for a long time. People knew that he was going to pass away soon. He passed away.
What was he sick from?
I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but he was in a hospital for years. And so he passed away at 79 years old. That's how old he was. And most people know him as the big Japanese, big chins, neck towels, a Japanese guy and stuff. If you think of a Japanese wrestler, that's what you think of most of the time. Period, him or the Great Muta, I think, would be the two you probably think of. But most Westerner people know him because he actually had one of what's considered the first Japanese MMA fight when he fought Ali. And when he fought Ali, the ref at that fight was Judo Jean LaBelle, who had technically one of the first MMA fights of all time here in the US, and he fought a boxer. But this was the first time when it was going to be like a really good professional, like the best professional boxer of all time versus probably one of the best pro wrestlers / catch wrestlers. And if you don't know about Antonio Inoki's background, he grew up doing karate. He did a little bit of judo and stuff, was a huge track and field star, grew up in Brazil and Japan, came back to Japan and became a pro wrestler, one of the biggest pro wrestlers of all times. So, and now I got my neighbors now mowing the lawn behind me, so hopefully you guys don't hear that next. But so apparently they're at a dinner. Ali and Inoki's there, and Ali's talking his talk like he does, and Inoki's like, "You ain't gonna talk shit about my people or anybody here. I'm here to fight."
Yeah, people don't remember that part about Muhammad Ali, huh? Like,
yeah, it was a weird thing. Like, I don't know how it was, but basically what we'd call it nowadays is that Ali worked his way into a shoot. That means he thought it was gonna be like a fake fun fight that Inoki did have, and he had some with older people. Like, there's actually a fun video, if you can find it, of Antonio Inoki in his damn 50s or 60s fighting. Which Gracie is it? What's the Gracie that has a big gym in New York?
Henzo.
He actually had a work shoot fight with Henzo in a pro wrestling ring like 10 to 20 years ago.
So not everyone listened to our 2 episodes about pro wrestling. So I think I learned from it what work means now, right? So I think you gotta explain it again.
Okay. So in pro wrestling terms, so a work, it means like a fake fight. We're going to make it look real, but I'm not going to hit you super hard. Well, we might hit each other pretty hard, pretty stiff, what they say. So, but we know who the winner's going to be, and we're not going out there to hurt each other. Okay. Well, in wrestling terms, pro wrestling terms, what's called a shoot means that it's gone past that. Now it's a real fight. Now it's a real MMA fight or kickboxing match. It's just a real street fight at that point. So the story goes that Ali thought it was a work, that they're going to go there, have some fake fight. Inoki thought it was going to be a shoot, and that was a real fight because of how much stuff Ali was talking during the party and during the press conferences. So I guess it was like the night before, Ali's kind of like, no, they think it's a real fight. And Ali's like, no, it's a fake fight. Like, no, but they think it's a real fight. So it became kind of like a real, like, I don't know exactly. Like, some people say that it was still shoots. Some people say it was still work.
So this is like one side of the story, right? What you're saying.
Yeah,
it's not like it's
Yeah. Like Ali has stated some stuff. Inoki has stated other things. And then Jean LaBelle has said kind of like stuff in the middle. Like, So they had to knock out this thing. So if you ever watch the fight, you're going to see Inoki on the ground the entire time, because in the contract that they wrote up the night before the fight, it was written that Inoki cannot throw any kicks unless he's on the ground. So he's doing that little spider crawl the entire fight and just kicking Ali in the leg just
This
all
is according
day.
to Jean LaBelle, you said? The contract?
Yeah,
part?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just kicking Ali in the legs, like just all the entire fight long. And apparently they watch also like Inoki's always trying to pull him in the guard and stuff, trying to bring him to the ground. And Ali's like, get the hell away from me. And he's like jumping on the rope. Like he's literally jumping on the ropes. You ever watch? And if you can find the full fight, I can never see the whole thing, but you see parts online and stuff. You see Ali jumping on the ropes. Like he's literally on the ropes, like just jumping on him to get away from him. So I think the fight was ruled a draw in the end. I should have looked it up. This is off the top of my head, remembering all this stuff. I think it was ruled a draw. But the next day, Ali's legs are so swollen and so badly from the kicks, he had to get his leg drained. And this is, again, I can't remember which article was I read this in or interview was, that they were so worried about Ali's legs from the kicks that they were almost scared he was going to get amputated. Mm-hmm. That's how bad it was. But yeah, it's not a fun fight. It's not a great fight to watch. It's an interesting fight. It's an interesting fight to watch about history, because this is technically the first like what you call like modern day mixed martial art fight. The greatest boxer versus the greatest pro wrestler at the time. And Inoki just has a lot of controversies, a lot of great things that happened to him, a lot of crazy stuff happened to him. Very interesting character. You should look him up and stuff. Like he's the one that created New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is the modern day like best or the most highest ranked Japanese pro wrestling federation there is. But it's a very interesting person out there. So
yeah,
look him up.
I don't follow pro wrestling, as you know, other than Rossi Rascal now. But
yeah,
I heard about his death in my friend circles, and also I think it was brought up in the BJJ community too. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna look up some of his fights after this.
Yeah, because he is considered because he's a pro wrestler and stuff, but he was trained by I want to say it was Gotch and who was the other? I think it was God, I know it was Gotch and somebody else. I can't remember who the other guy was, but he was trained in classical British style catch wrestling as well. So he was a catch wrestler.
Robert Paulson or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But he was a trained catch wrestler, so he was part of our grappling family and stuff. But that's one of more.
I'm sure out there. Our friend Raul from Catch Wrestling Alliance will do an episode about it, right? Sure. Or maybe video.
Yeah, probably will actually. So with some other, so we got that sad news out the way now. Let's get some good news in the way now. So one of our judo friends, you might see me posted on the Facebook for Hollywood Judo or on the Instagram. A friend of ours, Pamela, she got her black belt in BJJ. I'm very proud of her. Give her a round of applause, everybody. Clap, 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 clap. But I'm really happy for her because she's so close to getting her fourth dan in judo, and she got her black belt in BJJ, and it was a surprise. Apparently she thought she was just gonna get like her fourth stripe brown, and instead her sensei was like, here you go, here's your black belt instead or something. So that's at Cube, I think. Cube.
That's where I used to train. Yeah, when I still lived in Hollywood,
I was trying to remember in my head. I'm trying to think like Cube. Okay, Cube. So that's where you used to go. Okay, but she got her black belt. And Anthony, there was some stuff that you wanted to bring up.
Wait, did I?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was. Was it about? I should have wrote it down, huh? I'm gonna have to edit this in. But go ahead. Like, do you have anything else?
All right. So just to let people know out there, we're going to be having our 3-clip scrimmage again here at Hollywood Judo. It's going to be with us, Goltz Judo, and Sautel Judo. And we're going to live stream it again on our Twitch channel. So that's be at Tatami Talk Twitch. I might do a live, maybe an Instagram live really quick to let people know that we're going to do it. We're trying some stuff out. Mm-hmm. You know, we said we're going to do these things this year. We're going to try some stuff out. Okay.
So let's just say it now, so we have the pressure to do it. Because as I said, I was in New York for a funeral, and then I was sick and all that stuff. So let's just say this coming week we'll do it. We'll record it this coming week. So then we'll have it released after the week following this episode. Hopefully. Record
what? Which thing?
The live stream.
What are you getting me into here?
The live stream.
Oh, the live stream. Okay.
It's a live stream. I guess it's not releasing a record. It's not releasing a recording. We'll do the live stream the following week. So.
All right. Our hands are cuffed now. We got to do this. All right. So there was that, and a little update that So by the time this video comes out, or the week that this video comes out, actually, no, it's this week. I'm so mixed up with how we release our stuff sometimes. The World Championship is happening for Judo.
I totally forgot about that.
Forgot about that?
No, I remember it was happening, but I forgot that was what I wanted to talk about. So we will probably do the next episode. Will probably most likely be majority of that, maybe something else. I know people don't want to hear all about it, but you got to talk about it. We got to talk a little bit about the World Championships. I think it's okay that we talk about it now because usually Dave Roman's the one who talks about all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, man, I know people listen to both his podcasts and ours usually. So usually I'm just like, go listen to Dave Roman if you want to hear about the tournament. But he hasn't released an episode in a while. I guess he's like semi-retired because he's, as far as I know, he's running a judo program inside his BJJ club. So I guess he's too busy for that. So yeah, let's talk about the World Championships. I'm super excited. There's other than the fact that Ono isn't going. Well, I'm starting to talk about it already, but just a quick overview. Shohei Ono is not going to be there, and Teddy Raniere is not going to be there because of his injury. But other than that, the roster is pretty stacked. I really like. Is there any fights you're looking forward to seeing? Like for me, it's Klim Kate versus Deguchi. I want to see a rematch. I think Klim Kate's going to win again, but not Klim Kate. Deguchi's going to win again, but who knows? And also Yang Yong Wei, the silver medalist from Olympics. I want to watch his rematch with Takato from the gold medalist from Olympics.
If it happens.
If it happens, I want to see a rematch.
That's what happened in the brackets.
Because as I said in the past, I thought the referee calls were freaking terrible for that Olympic finals match. So I really want to see a rematch where there isn't like a quote unquote home field advantage. So yeah, it'll be fun to see that. Do you have any matches?
Speaking of some stuff, now this is a little off top. I'm not looking like there's people I want to see. There's people I want to see. I want to watch fight and stuff. But going off topic, did you watch the last One Championship? Since One Championship's now on Prime Video, it's a little bit easier to watch. Man, like I like One. They're great. They're pretty good. But man, they have some favors on that damn show. And this looks like, man, this stuff looks a little work to me sometimes. Like these refs seem a little worked refs to me because there were some people getting like yellow cards and stood up and it's like, I don't think this is right. And there was one fight where I wholeheartedly feel the wrong guy won. And I was like, this is BS, but it is what it is.
Hey, I rather that happen than like UFC judges. Like I think UFC judges are like one of the worst. And I don't. So
if you're out there, you're in Nevada State Athletic Commission. Yeah. He hates the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So you want to talk about someone getting ill. So what happened?
No, I think we can talk about it. I may as well bring that up now, but we're going to bring it up later since we're talking about modified rule sets today, like we said in the last episode. But we recently just got news that Shintaro from the dojo, the guy who runs Kokushi Budo in New York City, he just announced that he had a stroke not too long ago and he's still recovering, so he hasn't been able to do judo and stuff. I was actually planning to go train at his place this past weekend when I was in New York City, but I was not able to fit the training into my funeral schedule because I was there for a funeral. There's a lot of family stuff I had to go through. And I could have made it work, but the traffic in New York City is just crazy now. I haven't been back I used to live there and I haven't been back in a long time, and it's just crazy now. Plus it was raining. It was like the remnants of Hurricane Ian, I think, that made its way up as a rainstorm. So I looked up the schedule and the class he was supposed to teach was being substituted. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to make the effort to go out there then. So, but I didn't know that he had a stroke. So hopefully we'll talk about it more later, I guess, but hopefully he gets well soon. Last time I went, I was a yellow belt when I visited him. So I don't know if he remembers me, but I really want to go there and train again. So.
So yeah, we were saying our thoughts and prayers go out to him. Anthony just told me about this happening today, so I didn't know about it at all. But yeah, we hope that he's doing okay. We hope that his recovery goes smoothly and he can get back on the mat and do as much as he can. And don't push yourself if you don't have to. Okay, you have your own gym, you have some assistants. Take some time off. You know. So that's it's a more serious news stuff. Let's get back to some happy news again. So, was there any other small topics you want to get to before we get to the big stuff?
No, I'm sure if I forget, we'll just talk about it next time. Or as usual, I'll talk about it at the end of the episode. So that's incentive for all of you guys to listen through this whole thing and,
listen to the end, please.
Yeah. Or I'll just edit it into the front or something.
You can edit into the front. I'll put this here, put this around there. Why is Juan jump cutting so much during this entire video? Okay, so all right, so let's get to more interesting things. So what if I told you you can go on a cruise with a bunch of grapplers?
That sounds like a terrible idea.
So if you have or haven't seen it yet, Fujimat is going to have a cruise, is going to have a grappling cruise. Call it a grappling cruise, but it's mostly a BJJ cruise. They're going to have a grappling cruise on the Princess and Fuji Caribbean Adventure. Caribbean.
I really want to know how Jimmy Pedro pulled this off. Like even if he came up with that idea, I want to know who did he know. Maybe he didn't know so, but how did he convince someone to sell this idea? I don't know. Like,
okay. I'm going to stay to this now because again, now I'm going to go back. God damn, such a mark sometimes. I'm going to go back to pro wrestling. So there's a pro wrestler, Chris Jericho, that every year does the Jericho Rock and Rager. So because he's also part of a rock band, he does like rock and roll music stuff, and he does wrestling shows on a cruise. That's like Caribbean cruise also, I think. I don't know if it's Princess, but it's some sort of Caribbean cruise. You never heard about this? So you can imagine being on a whole boat full of grapplers. Imagine being on a whole boat with a bunch of wrestling marks. That sounds like the worst thing to my. And I love wrestling. Okay,
hey, I'm speaking as someone who wants to do BJJ Globetrotters. I think I mentioned that before. Globetrotter sounds fun because you go into all these exotic destinations and stuff, but it's not on board a cruise ship where you can't escape from some of these psychos. I was about to say psychos. Yes. Some of these people. Right?
You already did say it.
I mean, I think I speak for everyone that everyone loves. Well, not. I've been to some dojos where people are really close, but I think it's a good idea if it's like a kids kind of thing, kids camp kind of thing, where your kids can like do judo on the boat and you do some adult activities like gambling or something, and then go on the island and have fun. But like, I can't imagine a boat full of grapplers. Like,
well, okay, so here. So here's another thing that these cruises do also. It may not be a whole cruise full of grapplers. What they'll sometimes do, it'll be a normal cruise, but they'll designate like 100 rooms for 100 rooms for here or 200 rooms
and
for
then
these
rent
guys.
to like a ballroom out for and lay some mats down or something. Yeah.
So that'll be the funniest thing also. If you hate grappling or something and you get on this regular cruise you got with your wife or your family or kids, whatever, and there's a bunch of like these grapplers are taking over the place.
I'm just wondering how like the medical side's going to work. Like, imagine you dislocate your shoulder. I'm sure there's a doctor on board, but if you like get seriously injured on board, like you need to go to a hospital, then you're in the middle of the ocean, you're kind of screwed, right? And that's one.
No, you get airlifted off then. They bring a helicopter over.
Well, it depends on, I guess I didn't check the route, but if you're middle of the Atlantic Ocean, no helicopter's going to come get you. But number two is when I went to train in Japan and other places, one of the things I always did was I bought travel insurance. It was actually a requirement by some of the clubs, the dojos, like the Kodokan required it, I think, and also the Embassy dojo I went to required it. But how do you buy insurance for combat sports in international waters? I'm just really curious how that works, or whether it would count the boat as part of it, or whether this whole package includes some sort of insurance or something.
Yeah, so there's a hospital on the boat. I'm pretty damn sure.
I don't think there's a hospital. I think they have a medical bay. They have a medical bay, but I don't think it's like a full blown hospital. What happens if you have a stroke from getting choked? Like we're talking about.
God. Okay, so let's get down to this. Okay, so it's going to be, so like I was saying, so it's going to be the Sky Princess, January 7th through the 14th next year, so 2023. So on the cruise, there's going to be 10 plus. This is the thing that okay. So for us, I'm going to get a little off topic again now. I'm going to put my phone down. I'm going to get a little off topic. So there's going to be 10 plus grappling sessions on the boat. Now, and it's actually, it doesn't say grappling. It actually says BJJ sessions. Yep. Should we go into now who's the, let me go into what
you should just read the names. Cause I think when I read it, the first thing I was like, oh, it's going to be judo. But then like, as I read more into it, I'm like, oh, it looks like it's not going to be judo. It might be judo for BJJ.
Yeah, it's for us because we're judo guys and we buy our Fuji stuff from Jimmy Page. When Jimmy Page, a big judo guy, our first thought is always, oh, it's a judo cruise, or it's going to be some sort of judo cruise. But the more you read into it, the more you're saying like, oh, it's a BJJ cruise, which isn't terrible. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not for us exactly. All right, so they're planning on doing 4 stops. They're going to stop in San Juan, Crystal Bay, which is I think Princess Seas. Amber Cove, and then Grand Turk. So there's 3 places they're going to stop at, and they're going to have beach workouts. They're saying there's going to be things that happen on the ship. So it's just, and it's as well like networking, meeting people, open mat, morning yoga and exercise, exclusive Fuji giveaways and prizes. It sounds like a fun cruise. Okay, it's just for a judo player, we're expecting to do judo. I don't know if they're going to be doing judo. Now, with who they're going to have be there. So they're going to have, who is it? It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 instructors being there. Okay. 8 instructors being there. Only 3 are judo players. And then 1, I don't know if he's doing judo because he's wearing his BJJ gi in the picture. So you're going to have Kayla Harrison. Okay. She might be teaching no gi or judo for MMA, maybe. Okay. You're going to have Jimmy Pedro, who for the most part probably just teaching judo, tachiwaza mostly, maybe some newaza, but as we're saying, maybe judo for BJJ. And then you're gonna have Travis Stevens, okay, another great judo player. But in his photo, he's wearing his BJJ gi and his BJJ black belts. I'm like, damn it, no, no. You're gonna have 2 Gracies there. Was it Gregor Gracie? And I cannot pronounce his other name because I always forget how to pronounce how their other name is. Heron Gracie. How do you say his name?
I lose track of them. They're like Game of Thrones characters to me now, basically. Like the House Gracie, and you're like
the House of Gracie, the House of Gracie, and the House of Machado. And then you have Bruno Bastro, and then Xander. Roberto, and then the last one will be McDermott, Sophia McDermott. Mm-hmm. And the rest of them, they're all BJJ people. Okay. So there'll only be 3 judo people there. And then in the advertisement, let me see if I can pull up the other advertisement. I saw the one that they were posting about it. So yeah. So it's gonna be 10 plus judo set BJJ, and it doesn't say grappling, it does say BJJ. 10 plus BJJ sessions, excursions, BJJ classes, and fun experiences. And it's just, when I first heard this, when I first looked at it, because again, it's on the Fujimat site, and to us as judo players, we see Fuji, we automatically think judo. Okay, I think even I think of Fuji, like Mount Fuji, I think in Japan, I think judo. I don't think of Fuji and think of Rio de Janeiro. Okay, I'm sorry. That's me. So Anthony, with all that's being said and all our fun that we're having, would you go on this BJJ cruise?
Okay. First of all, no. Second of all, I've been on a lot of cruises as a kid and I've always hated it because I don't like being stuck in like a place where I can't escape, Mm-hmm. It's just, cruises are nice for like a day or 2, but then it gets really boring after a while. Unless I guess, I don't know, maybe some people are into the whole just hang out and look in the ocean kind of thing, then sure. But then why don't you just go to the beach, So I'm more of, like I said, like the BJJ Globetrotters thing where one of them, you go to like a freaking castle in Austria or something like that, and you live in the castle, and then you train, and then you have like a personal chef like cooking dinner for you in the castle, and then you go on the day excursions out. And for whatever reason, if I don't want to participate or I need a rest or want to go somewhere and explore, I could do that, right? But what you can do on a cruise, you're stuck in a boat.
Well,
so,
it's not just a cruise. You get 4 stops. You're going to stop at 4 places.
But that's also, that's the other thing. For those who've been on a cruise, you know what I'm talking about. You land and they'll be like, okay, here, you need to be back in the boat by this time. And then you go out and you do all your stuff and you got to run back. Right. So I just don't like that whole experience. I was never a cruise kind of person. I think it's, I just was just never really a huge fan of that. I'm the kind of guy who likes to stay at hostels and walk and take the train and everything like that, and not have like a resort like experience, if you know what I'm talking about. So that's just me, but that's why I would prefer if there was a judo version of the Globetrotters, or I actually knew someone that ran a judo clinic in one of the Globetrotter camps, and if they did more of that, I'd be super interested. But I'm sure there'll be people that think this is amazing, like going on a cruise. And
well, I was just thinking about it in my head what you were saying about it. And I was like, okay, from the 7th to the 14th, that's 7 days. That's 7 days on this cruise. 7 days doing BJJ. To some, like I said, to some people, this is gonna be great. But like you're saying, like I've never been on. I'm gonna put that out there now. I've never been on a cruise. I'm not a cruise person. I've been on boats, but I've never been on a cruise. But I know from people that go on cruise, like one of my aunts, they used to go on cruise a lot and stuff. And one of my buddies, he puts his parents on a cruise all the time. Get them out the country, get them away from me, stuff. But it's like you get to drink all day. You buy that endless cup where you can just fill it up with anything you want. So you get to drink all day if you want. So you get drunk in BJJ, and then you got the pool. So you get
this is why I'm saying it's not a good idea, right? Because that's usually what people do. And can you imagine how many people get thrown overboard in the middle of the night?
Oh my God! I wasn't thinking about that, but apparently Anthony's. He's thinking about throwing people overboard. I don't like you. Woo!
But I don't know.
They have theaters, they have shows, like they have movie theaters, they have shows and stuff to watch.
But again,
they most likely have a casino.
Like in my recent trips to Japan, I kind of just made a rough itinerary and then I just like modify it on the fly. Like I think we were supposed to take rent a car and do a road trip, but then a typhoon hit. And also I was super sore from training judo that day. So we just ended up taking a train out to middle of nowhere and went to a hot spring instead. So that
sounds nice.
Yeah. So that allows a sort of flexibility. But then when you go on a cruise, it's just like, you can't have that flexibility. Your flexibility is, do I go to the buffet or do I go to that restaurant in the cruise ship? So yeah.
So to the cafe, you can stay in your room, get some room service.
It has not much to do with the fact that it's a grappling cruise. I think now that I talk more about it, I think I just don't like cruises. So
it's just the cruise itself.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, and then it's also cruise. The way I see it is an opportunity cost, right? How much does this cruise cost? What could I have done with that money instead? Like I could have went to Globetrotters or something. So, but
let me see, what did they have a price on here?
It's like 1,000 or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's a well, they said it's $1,000 value, but they have special offers. Should I click on the special offer?
Yeah, and then usually what they don't tell you, like people when they think about cruises, and people who never been on cruises before, when they talk about cruises, you think you're gonna get like the window suite and like look out into the ocean and stuff. But the basic tickets, you basically get a bunch of bunk beds in the room in the inside that has no window view. So you have to actually pay quite a lot more to get the window view. So when you say 1,000, I'm thinking of like 1,500 to 2,000 more instead.
That'd be some claustrophobic stuff right there. If you put like the below deck one, so you know you're underneath the water.
Oh no! The below deck ones are reserved for the workers.
Oh, are they? Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah,
put the below deck. All right, but it's a very interesting idea. I thought, it's very interesting. I actually thought you'd like this idea, but maybe not. But for us again, if it was judo,
I personally don't like it, but I think it's great that they're trying stuff. Like we've talked about it all in the past all the time. It doesn't hurt judo, right? It's not actually. This isn't even judo. It's like BJJ most likely, right?
Yeah,
but
that's the thing. It's not judo. That's the whole thing. It's not judo.
If they made it judo, I don't think it would hurt either. You know, so imagine you're doing a cruise and then people walk by the room that aren't other people who aren't part of this program walk by and be like, what are those guys doing? And you're advertising judo this way to the masses, right? Or you can run like a kid's little intro to judo thing on board. Because when I was a teenager and when my wife was a teenager and got dragged onto cruises by our parents and grandparents, they just sent the kids to like the kids disco or something like that, right? So
like the kids zone.
Yeah, imagine you just drop your kids off into this introductory judo camp thing. So yeah, that'll be cool. So yeah, that's my take on it.
All right. So if you're interested in doing it and going to this event, it is, let me look it up. Let me pull this up again. So it's the Fujimat Princess, or it's the Princess. What was the whole name of this thing? Screw it. So it's the Fujimat.
They can look it up. It's just Fujimat Co. like Princess Cruise or something.
Yeah. And if you do go, if you're a member, if you're someone who watches our show and do go, let us know how it was. Send us an email, drop us a line, tell us how great it was, how much food sickness you got from what you ate.
Man, if we had like a Patreon thing, I'd probably do it just to make an episode about it. But no, actually might not. I might send you there instead.
I don't know if I can. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. I probably could do it. Yeah, that's all. All right. So let's move on to our next topic then. So that was the cruise. If you're interested in doing it, go look it up. Sounds fun. So our last episode, we're talking about modified rules and certain things and certain tournaments.
We're going to talk about Kosen Judo first.
Yeah, that's what I was going to lead into that, Anthony.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about how there's going to be different tournaments and stuff. So what happened in the last episode, we talked about that there was going to be the Nevada State Championship, Nevada State Kosen Judo Championship. And they posted their video of their matches online on YouTube.
So after I posted the episode on Reddit, someone messaged me and was like, well, he didn't message me, but he posted a comment. It's like, hey, I know you said on the episode that they didn't post a video, but here's the video. So they posted like 2 days after, right? And I watched this. Now we can talk about it.
So we did watch it, and we're saying these are ideas people are trying to do out the box to get judo more popular. And this is one thing that people always bring up, like, well, what about Kosen Judo? What about Kosen Judo? And the whole thing about Kosen Judo is, again, it's more newaza time. It's not just so you get taken down and, normal judo, we have to react fast, act fast and stuff. We have time limits to it's what do I always like? Action based. I always like to say judo's action based. Where Kosen got a little bit slower pace, especially when you get to newaza. So Anthony, so I'm watching the video. What was your thoughts on it?
My first thought is, who the hell was checking the gis?
I knew you were going to bring that up. And the answer, nobody probably.
Like, even if nobody was checking it, how do you not notice it? Like, what I'm referring to is, if you watch the videos, there's this one guy. It's really obvious. There's this one guy. His sleeve literally goes up to his elbows, like and he has no skirt. with his hands down, it probably goes towards like right past the elbow. Can you see my arm? Probably goes right past here, this point. And then when he fights and puts up his arm, it basically looks like an oversized t-shirt, like with the long sleeves. You want to know what it looked like to me? It looked like an old school karate gi or a kata karate gi. That's what it looked like, because he had really capri pants on, super short skirt, and like the sleeves were short as well, like you're saying. What is that other clothes I'm thinking of? A jinbei? Yeah, jinbei. Yeah. Jinbei. Well, it's like what sushi chefs wear. What people think. Yeah. It looks like that. Yeah. I don't know how anyone let him fight like that. Like, it's not. I think I mentioned before, I think it's okay if it's like the sleeve is a little short like this, like up, let's say like 3 inches above your wrist, because it shrink, like gis shrink, right? I wouldn't even allow that guy to train with that gi personally. If someone came to my class with that gi, I'd be like, here's a loaner gi, or buy a new gi. I wouldn't allow him to train in that. I don't know who let him on the mat. That was ridiculous that they actually let the guy fight like that. But That's number one. So number two, did you have anything else to say about the guy with the short sleeves?
Well, I was a little surprised I didn't see. I might have missed it if maybe I didn't, because the video quality, I'm not saying you guys did a bad job. I'm very glad you guys did this. The video quality wasn't best, but I bet you, not thinking about it, I might have seen some BJJ gis.
Yes, that's the other thing I was going to talk about next. So
okay, the
BJJ gis weren't that bad. I mean, we talked about it. It does give a slight advantage because it's harder to grab by the elbow. But regarding the video quality, I think it was great. It was just as good as actually there's two mats. I don't know if I told you, there's two videos, mat 1 and mat 2. One of them, the quality was pretty bad, but the other one, it was just as good as the one we have or for our 3 dojos scrimmage. Because I've been using our webcam, the one that I'm recording right here with this podcast with right now. I've been using this for streaming the tournament, and obviously it's not meant for sports and far stuff that are far. So it's going to look like that, but I think it's good enough to see what's happened. You know, you can't see people's faces that well, but you can see the action. And as I said, I bought a camera to improve the stream quality. So we're going to see how it works out this time. But yeah, the BJJ gis, I think it was okay because given how small the judo community is there, I think a lot of the judo clubs in Vegas are actually in BJJ clubs. So I think it's okay as a pass, but you can totally tell who was a BJJ guy, who was a wrestler, who was a judoka. I actually saw some people I recognized that came to our judo tournament, our in-house scrimmage. Same thing with the refs. Like, really kudos to Gary Goltz for helping out run this. I assume he's the one who put an effort, put this together, and the dojo that hosted it. Also, the refs that went all the way out there. Now, with that said, I was super confused because you know how we said how bad some of the ref scoring calls are? So in this case, I couldn't tell if the scoring calls were bad or whether it was basically I couldn't tell what the score standard was. Because as we said before, Kosen Judo is a USJA, United States Judo Association thing. Submission grappling was a USA Judo thing. So I pulled up the rules here for USJA, Kosen Judo Division. I'm not going to go over every single thing, but I'm going to go over some of the stuff that's excuse me, some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. Wazari will be scored for high impact throws that would normally reach the standard of ippon. So if you throw someone with an ippon level throw, it should be a wazari. But I saw some wazaris that were called ippon, and then I saw some ippons that was called wazari, because I assume you need 2 ippons to win. Basically, that's what they're saying. You need 2 ippons to win because they're wazaris. But the calling was inconsistent, so I couldn't tell whether they modified the rule to be like, okay, ippon, you can still win by an ippon throw, or whether they just messed up and thought an ippon, the throw wasn't good enough, and the call was wazari or something like that. So I don't know which one they decided. What was something else I wanted to talk about? Oh, yeah, there was a guy that was clearly a wrestler. He was just shooting the legs and blasting people and stuff. And the double leg blast he was doing, he did score a couple of what do you call it? Ippons with it, scores.
Wazaris?
Wazari, ippon. No, he did score ippon one time too. So he did score, but with that said, this goes into the whole leg grab topic, which I kind of wanted to avoid, but it's just, I'm going to go over it real quick because there's some things I noticed. One thing I noticed is the leg grabs weren't as effective as we thought. It wasn't as effective as people thought it would be. It was, for anyone that was have dealt with leg grabs before there, like anyone with the BJJ gi, they've stuffed and sprawled and defended leg grabs easily, right? Some of the judokas clearly were yellow belts, orange belts that never dealt with leg grabs before. So they were the ones that got scored on, but many times it's not an ippon score. Like some of the times it would have been a yuko. Like actually many of the times it would have been a yuko. So this kind of goes on and basically shows that why they removed the leg grabs in the first place is because people were spamming this to stall. Like they're spam yuko. So one was that. So the two things I noticed basically to summarize was one, leg grabs weren't high scoring technique, mostly used for stalling. Two, that judokas now don't know how to defend leg grabs. I think that needs to be taught. That's two things I noticed about that. Another thing I noticed was you can tell who was had a BJJ background because they were doing stuff like De La Hiva, single leg X, Ashigurami even. I saw some Ashigurami, which made me wonder whether that is legal because the one they didn't do a leg reap, but it was like borderline the judo forbidden Ashigurami. They were almost there. So I wondered if they kicked the leg out from the inside like they do in the kata, whether that's allowed. So I'm really curious whether that's allowed or not. So there was that. And then one thing I noticed, were you going to say something?
No. Well, actually, yeah, because I could have swore when we read the rules last time, or when I looked at it last time, I thought they said no leg locks were allowed still. I thought they said that.
So this would be a sweep, not a leg lock.
Okay.
They're going to use that as a sweep.
They were just using
they're trying to use it as a sweep or as defensive. I don't think any of the Ashiguramis I saw actually succeeded as a sweep, but I was wondering if they did do that, whether it would count as a leg lock. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be a leg lock to be illegal, right? Remember how they clarified the bow and arrow, you can't grab behind the knee because it's putting pressure on the knee joint. So they say that's not allowed. So I don't know. Like, I feel like those Ashiguramis they were doing were putting pressure on the knee joint. But again, the rules can be like clarified over the years. I know it's still kind of a new thing. And one more thing, one really important thing I noticed is keeping the pin as a winning condition made it so the people that had BJJ background, they got when they tried to play on their back, to play their BJJ game on their back, many times they got pinned. Like a lot of times you can see like their open guard, the people with good open guard retention wouldn't let the person pass guard, then that's fine. Like, but then sometimes someone has a good guard game or good guard passing game, or the bottom guy's open guard game is not that good. Then the guy passes him, and then he's like, "Oh man, I should have just turtled." Like, you can tell he should have just turtled. As someone who did judo, he should have just turtled, right? He should not have played off his back. So the whole turtle is dumb thing. It's like, well, it's not dumb given the winning condition of being pinned on your back, because it was pretty dangerous playing. If getting pinned is a winning condition, then playing a game off of your back seems pretty stupid in this context, obviously, right? Again, I didn't see any BJJ black belts or anything. Like, people, not that I'm talking shit or anything, but it was a pretty small tournament. And I don't think I saw any high level jiu-jitsu there or anything. So this is just based off of what I saw from this tournament. I think some of those people that started off playing off their backs eventually decided to turtle when they realized they were going to get pinned.
Yeah.
So, that's one thing I noticed. That was a huge thing.
Well, to me, to go talk about that, it's the one thing where I see it all the time at judo. Sometimes we'll get these guys that come from BJJ, or we get our players that are like, they do judo as their supplement, but BJJ is their main thing. And they come to judo and want to play BJJ, and then get upset when they get beat by judo rules. They're like, well, in BJJ, this isn't BJJ. I'm sorry. This is not BJJ. This is not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay. If he threw you this way, that's 8 ball and the match is done. Oh, but I would have put him in guard and choked him out. Like, it doesn't matter. We're playing judo here. So I'm interested to see what they thought when they went there, and they're like, my BJJ stuff's not working. Well, this is Kosen Judo. This isn't Kosen BJJ. This is Kosen Judo. In judo and in wrestling and stuff, and in catch also, a pin is a submission. and if you can't escape the pin, you can't escape the pin. And that's funny that you brought this up because, so I went back to my catch wrestling gym the other day to go see how they were doing. It was a small class and stuff. And there was like only one guy that I recognized there from last time, but it was a small class. And at the end of class, they're doing rondor, they're just doing some free sparring. Almost all of them, except for one of them, the one that's been doing catch for a while, almost all of them were getting themselves pinned. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so one right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just like, he would have been pinned already. He would have been pinned 3 seconds ago. Mm-hmm. Oh, let's watch this match over here. Okay, he's got on his back. 1. Okay, he's pinned also. So these guys that even though they're at catch, they're still playing these BJJ rules. And when I would say to some of them like, hey, you're being pinned right there. Hey, he's already beat. He's already pinned. You stand back up. They will look at me like, who's this guy? What's he telling me? And then Raul would be like, oh, yeah, you're pinned, right? This is catch wrestling rules. You'd be pinned. So this whole thing of, and maybe to the cruise also again, is like when you go to a different martial art, different style, don't take your style rules with you. I can't go to a BJJ school, throw people with Ippon and be like, okay, the match is done. Be like, no, we still do groundwork here. Okay. I can't go to a Sambo school and do a judo throw. Well, actually, I could do judo throw and win the match that way, but I can't go to wrestling, okay, and hold you down for 20 seconds and be like, I still got to beat him, ref. I'm still gonna be like, no, it's 2 seconds. It's already done. The match is done.
Yeah.
Read the rules when you go to these places.
Yeah.
That's just my thing.
With that said, I do need to go back and watch some more Kosen Judo matches, like actual Kosen Judo from Japan. Because I do know they do pull guard there. And they do play on guard games on their back. But I recall from the couple of matches I watched, I recall it looking very different from what I'm seeing here. So I need to go. I should have done that before we recorded this episode, but just so we could talk about it. So I recall it being different. Like it seemed a lot stickier. It was less dynamic. Like it seemed like there's less open guard play. So I need to see what they were doing there, because I guess there is a way to play off your back. It's just different. Because again, you can pull guard in Kosen Judo. So
yeah, well, it's just about using judo things. Sweeps, chokes, arm bars. It's just about doing certain things to stay off your back from not getting pinned. Or if they do pass your guard, you only have 10 seconds or 20 seconds to escape. I don't have all day to hang out here. And don't get mad when you get pinned, because that's in the rules. So is there anything else about, I don't want to give them props for doing this tournament again. I think, is this their second annual or third annual one? Do you remember?
I don't know. This is like their second or third. Oh, well, they did one in Florida, and then I think they did their second time doing it in Nevada. I think I've heard of it. Oh, and also I attended one of the first ones they ever did in Sensei Gary Goltz's dojo one time, but it was kind of like a last minute thing. It was poorly planned. It has nothing to do with the rules itself. It was just a whole thing was poorly planned. So it was fun seeing this this Kosen Judo thing. I would actually, like, given what I saw, I would actually give it a try myself. Assuming
with the shortest ski possible.
With the shortest ski possible.
You could find.
I'll just bring this tank top, so
judo tank top. All right. So is there anything else you want to talk about the Kosen before we move on to the next thing?
No, let's move on to the next thing. Yep.
All right. So with that, we're talking about modified rules again. See, like the modified rules for Kosen Judo. Now, what we have sometimes in judo is that for our youths, teens, and even white belts, and now for our seniors, certain moves get taken out for safety. And I know one of the things that I get asked a lot, actually, when I first teach kids or when people come from different martial arts is, so with kids, kids and actually white belt adult ones, for white belts that are adults underneath brown belt, why can't I arm bar? Why is arm bar being taken out? Why can I only pin and choke? Or for kids, why can't my kid choke? Why can my kid only pin? And most of these things are put in there for safety. Now, for judo for kids, I explained that, well, teaching a kid how to do an arm bar, they don't have enough self-control yet. And some do. People are showing me like some BJJ kid that's like amazing. And be like, yes, some do have it, but not all kids do.
So regarding so I guess we're going to start with the chokes not being allowed for kids and arm bars being allowed in arm bars, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, some of them don't have control over the technique yet, and they would crank it. Another thing is the kids are flexible, and they don't know when to tap for chokes and arm bars. So sometimes it'll just like even adults, sometimes if you've never been choked before, you just start seeing your vision close off and you just, next thing you know, you blacked out. Right. So for kids, that's what they're afraid of. But if you look at, because people will like to bring up, look at BJJ tournaments, they allow it for kids, blah, blah, blah. So if you look at the tournaments and look at what the referees do, one, they're really well versed in most of the ground techniques, right? And two, they actually bend down and look really close at what's happening, and they basically force the kids to separate and award the win. And you can argue sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, they didn't tap yet" or anything, but that's the way they do it, right? I don't think our judo, especially local judo refs, has that capability of doing that. They would have to revamp the whole how they ref in the first place, which is they freaking stand all the time, right? And two, they would have to be well versed to know the techniques well enough to stop it before, when they know there's no way they're getting out of that. So it's a tap. So they have to be able to do that.
Yeah, and with that, so let me explain that to most people. Some of you won't understand that. So if you grow up wrestling or even doing BJJ, you'll see that the refs get really down and watch what's happening. If you're doing a wrestling match, the wrestling referee will get down the mat. They're looking at what's going on. They're going to look real close. They'll put their hands underneath the person sometimes to see if they're being pinned. They're really dynamic. And everyone's seen that little meme of that wrestling ref that's sliding across the screen, trying to watch his pin. Everyone's seen that one. And that's legit. That's not normal, but that happens. Same thing with BJJ. They'll get down low. They'll watch. They'll look to see if no one's going to get hurt. In judo, our refs just stand there as statues. They stand there, and it's not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that they let us play. They want to give us space, because if you throw, there's like a 5-foot distance you might throw somebody. So you have to give them distance to move. That's why we're not in deep watching them all the time. We're usually standing in the middle or in the corner or something, watching what's going on. And even when it gets to the Newaza stuff, some will kind of bend over a little bit to watch, but they're mostly standing there to look either for the choke, the arm goes limp, the tap, because they have to look at everything. But that's the thing with judo. They usually stand up the entire time. They're not down deep like wrestling or a BJJ ref is.
I don't think. With that said, I want to say not all BJJ refs are like that. It's just, I think kids, they're much more careful with kids and much more close up with kids. I've seen BJJ refs in adult divisions just stand there just as bad as judo refs. But for the kids, I think they really make an emphasis of making it safe that way. But so like I said, I think it can be done like that. But I don't have much faith in us changing the way that it's being refed, especially with our top-down structure in judo from IJF. So I think I totally agree that chokes and arm bars should remain banned for kids because of what I said. Not because I think kids can't do it safely, which I think they can. It's just because of the refs is what I think of. So
I think arm bars, I'm very iffy on arm bars. Chokes, I think kids might be able to get away with chokes a little better. But arm bars, I'm just like, I don't want kids doing arm bars. So I'm just worried, because I've seen it before where kids just go, you'll teach a kid just for fun sometimes, or not for fun, but you'd be like, okay, guys, let's do a little introductory to arm bars. And kids are just like yanking each other's arms back. Like, stop. What are you doing? But you said to go back. I said, we're going to go back light.
Well, that's a teaching problem then, right? That's a teaching problem. Just like I'm going to bring it up again, just like Tani Otoshi drop seoi. Like those are a teaching problem, like teaching them how to do it properly, teaching them how to take the fall. Like those are the teaching problem. Like banning it is not the full, it's not the solution for it.
We'll get to the throws next in a little bit. So let's go to adults then. Okay.
Yeah.
So adults and teens have very similar rules as white belts. You're allowed to pin the person. You're allowed to choke the person, but you're not allowed to armbar until you're how old?
Brown belt.
And it's the same thing. So you're a brown belt. Now, again, with that one, it's the same thing of chokes. We pretty much believe that you have the competence to choke somebody out and feel when they tap, and you should know how to tap at that time. But then it gets to the armbar again. It's like, are you going to wrench it too hard since you just learned it and stuff, or how much you know?
This is where I think the rule is outdated. These aren't IJF rules. These are common local rules applied in America. I don't know whether they do the same in other countries, but the common rule in America is novice, like anything below brown belt. If you're not a brown belt or black belt, you can't armbar. There's some exceptions. Sorry, I'm having that cough attack again. So there's some exceptions, but the common rule is that brown belts aren't allowed. Only brown and black belts are allowed to armbar, right? I think.
Yeah.
Again, this is just my conjecture. It's not obviously. I'd have to ask someone who implemented this rule while they were still alive or whatever when it was implemented. But I think it was around when standing arm locks were still allowed, and also people were still doing standing arm lock throws and stuff like flying arm bars and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? So when you have those available, I think that totally makes sense. You don't want a freaking white belt doing flying arm bars. And you don't want a white belt to take a wakikatame like throw, right? So that makes sense. But now those are gone. Those aren't allowed anymore. They removed it over time. Like first it was just a wakikatame, and then they removed the toji juji katame, which is the flying armbar. So over the years they removed that, and there's really no joint locks that can be done standing or throwing anymore. It's just all are going to be done on the ground. So I see no reason to keep that rule saying that novices aren't allowed to armbar anymore. Most of the armbar is going to happen on the ground, and you'll have time to tap. That's the main thing, right? Giving a chance for them to tap, not just these uncontrollable falling armbars. So I think the rule should be updated, and novices, adults should be allowed to armbar.
Oh, Anthony went on mute there. I think he's dying. Oh yeah, he's dying. If you're watching the video here,
that was all. That was all I had. Like, what do you think?
So, I will give you the only excuse that I was ever given. Mr. Hal Sharp told me this. He didn't tell me directly. Like, hey, Juan, I'm gonna tell you something. It was at a seminar that I went to of his, and he was talking. And it came up about coaching and about kids and adults and white belts not getting arm bars. And the thing he said is that in judo, we want you to get the hard stuff first and the easy stuff we'll teach you later. And I was like, I guess that makes sense. But some chokes can get very complicated. I was thinking in my head too, because it's kind of easy to teach an arm bar. To teach a basic arm bar, it is pretty easy to go through what the mechanics are. So that's what he told me. And I've kind of always thought about that way, is that we teach you how to throw, how to pin, how to choke, and then we'll teach you arm bar because it's going to get easier as you go on. That was my thing. But pins are pretty easy in my opinion as well. So with that, before we go to the seniors, I want to go to certain throws now and some weird things about throws that are illegal for kids and sometimes adults to do. Now, this is one that Anthony sent me a while ago, and I didn't know about this because he was asking me about a throw. And it's, I guess, koshi guruma in Europe. I don't know if it's Europe or Great Britain.
UK, and it used to be banned in UK. I think New Zealand or Australia. I don't remember. It used to be banned, but I think they hadn't banned it. Just like how in our local area here in California, Southern California, they briefly banned drop seoi for a year or so, or 8 months, and then they decided to reverse that. So I think it was similar there, but on Reddit especially, there's been a lot of people saying that koshi guruma should be banned, which is funny because nobody ever here on this side of the pond ever talks about banning koshi guruma for kids. It's always drop seoi. It's always double knee drop seoi that they say should be banned. Nobody, and over there, I never heard them talk about drop seoi. It's always about koshi guruma. So it's just really weird.
So I guess over there, I get it. I can get it from when you're teaching kids or kids first learning it. I can get from both sides where it can get illegal. So if you know what koshi guruma is, it's the head and arm throw, and you're turning your body. So for koshi guruma for kids, some kids don't know how to forward ukemi right, or some kids, because it's a tournament, they're fighting because they don't want to lose. And what happens? They get their head drilled into the mat. Now, to me, I rarely, if ever, have seen that happen in koshi guruma with adults, teens, kids. I have never seen someone really get their head driven to the mat. I have seen it. It's in funny competition.
After that post was made on Reddit, that's when it happened in our kids class, actually.
Oh, having our kids class. Because I was going to say, I actually saw one of our European members do it to somebody at a tournament.
Yes.
And took the girl out for the rest of the day. And I was like, oh my God.
I saw it. Yeah, she was concussed. Yeah. So
So, but I can understand, and I have seen it, but to me, it's such a rarity thing. And to me, it would only happen in competition where someone's fighting not to lose, that I can see it happening. But again, if it's a good koshi guruma, like they shouldn't be laying on their head for the most part. They should be laying on their back. I really don't see any problem with it. Now with it, because I'm Americanized, with drop seoi, I can totally understand and see that a lot more, even in practice with teens, adults, kids, learning drop Moroto seoi or drop ippon seoi, driving people's heads into the mat. It actually happened a few weeks ago. We were teaching two of our a green belt and orange belt. For some reason, wanted to do drop seoi, and we were going over it. And I swear, like they almost dropped the person on their head like 5 times. That's like
that's why we don't teach it to beginners. So
yeah, hey, they're citrus, they're higher citrus colors now. So. But see, I totally get it. And that's why, like, people are wondering, like, why is it banned? Why is it banned? Well, this is why. Moroto seoi, if I come in the wrong way, or koshi guruma, if I come in the wrong way, I can drill someone's head into the mat. I can totally understand that, and I get it, but I don't see it a whole lot happening. Drop seoi, I've seen it happen a lot more there, and it makes so much more sense, where if you don't get the person up and over, you're spiking them head first into the mat. I totally understand that too.
Is that what you were going to say?
No, that's just what I'm saying right there.
Yeah. So here's my thought on what you said. Like, again, why is there a discrepancy between, like, why are they more concerned about koshi guruma and we're more concerned about drop seoi here? I think these are some potential reasons, I think, right? So one, it's maybe we teach more drop seoi here and they teach less of it there. Maybe they already deem drop seoi as like either a bad technique to learn as a beginner, because you can just, like I talk about how I always don't like how Jessica Quinke just spams drop knee, because you can't throw someone, just spam drop knee and hope you shido the other person out. So maybe they consider that bad judo and they don't teach beginners and kids early on, and they instead teach koshi guruma early on, because it is a pretty powerful throw for kids to get that overhand grip to control the posture, right? So maybe that's one case. It's just that we teach things differently. And also maybe it's just ukemi. Like, again, I mentioned many times in past, not enough dojos teach how to take the fall for drop seoi. They'll teach you to drop seoi, but will not teach you how to take the fall. So you're really relying on the person who's doing the drop seoi to complete the rotation fully, so you land on your back and not your head or shoulder. So, but assuming, I'm just assuming in Europe or UK or whatever, they have more focus on ukemis. So you can protect yourself. If you have more training, you can protect yourself from a bad drop seoi by using that free hand, unless it's a double sleeve sode. You can use that free hand to post a little bit without extending, and then like absorb the impact of your shoulder or complete the rotation over your head if they drop you on your head. So that's what I think is either one or both of those reasons, or a combination of them. With that said, do you think that, let's just start with koshi guruma. Do you think that they should ban koshi guruma? No. Assuming I sent you the videos of people getting dropped on their face. Assuming
I know
that
you
happens,
sent me the video.
Yes. So let's assume that over in the pond in the UK, that happens all the time. Like that happens all the time. Do you think it should be banned, or do you think
no?
It's okay.
I don't think koshi guruma should be banned. And same thing with Moroto seoi or drop seoi and stuff like that. I also don't think that should be banned. I think it should just be to the instructor in tournaments.
I totally agree. Again, not because it's dangerous, or not that it's because it's safe or it's dangerous. Because I think a lot of these debates tend to have, like, just like most things in real life, people are on two extreme ends. People will be like, well, it's a martial art, it's going to be dangerous, right? On the other end, it's just like, well, we need to protect our kids. Like, we lose athletes if they get injured early on, blah, blah, blah. So, but nobody really talks about, what about just teaching them better ukemi, you know? Like, so that's one,
prevent it.
Yeah, that's one thing I think, is that you can teach them better ukemi, and you can teach them better throws, how to throw better, instead of right now, especially for kids. Like when I go to tournaments, especially for kids, I see people under rotating and just using their body weight to drag people down. And that's how most of the time you land people on their head, because they're just dragging people down with, frankly, poor technique, right? The the strength. We always talk about how strength can make up for poor technique, and using your body weight to drag someone down is like a sign of one way of exhibiting that strength. So instead of banning techniques, why don't you teach people how to protect themselves and how to do the throws better? Another reason I'm against the ban, I mean, I would be for the ban if the referees could enforce the ban properly. So, because I don't have much faith in I can teach my kids properly ukemi and properly how to do the throw, but I can't control everyone else from what they're teaching to their kids, right? So if they ban it, let's just say they ban it because of what I just said, how are the referees going to enforce it? And luckily, I did get a chance to coach during that brief time that they banned drop seoi here, double knee drop seoi here. And the enforcement has been terrible. Like, and it's not just to bash the referees. It is hard to call. Like, is it a drop if you drop to one knee and then you lose balance and you end up dropping to the second knee, right? Like, what if there's a pause first? What if there's no pause, right? What if he drops to his knees but then stands back up and then drops to one? Like, there's so many gray areas that sometimes I'm like, okay, that was clearly a drop knee and the referee called it wrong. But there's sometimes where I'm like, is that a drop knee? And you see that was before we had cameras, so we had side judges, and you see the side judges arguing for like 2-3 minutes about whether it was a drop knee or not, and whether they should disqualify someone. And sometimes they failed to throw, like the kids would fail to throw and then drop on their knees because they lost balance, and then they'll get disqualified even though no throw happened. So it's just like, if that's the enforcement that's going to happen, I'm totally against banning it, right? Because I think not banning it is better off, because it's just, there's way too many cons when you ban it. Enforcement will be hard. And now imagine trying to enforce koshi guruma, right? What happens if you do a harai goshi, but then you have the overhand grip, like around the neck grip or something? Yeah.
Well, here goes another thing with the things about, now we talk about, now it's a local thing. Let's say, like we said before, Nanka took out drop seoi for a while for the kids. Years ago, like I want to say like almost close to 10 years ago, more or less 10 years ago, Nanka decided that ladies, for some weird reason, it was just ladies, white belts, brown and black belts were not allowed. I think maybe it was only black belts only were allowed, but like brown belts to white belts were not allowed to do arm bars. It was the weirdest thing. And especially with how many national competitors we have here in Nanka, here in Southern California, they're going to take away arm bars for some reason. And I didn't get no answer for the few months. I remember they did like for a year, but I remember it's like a couple tournaments, we'd have to keep reminding some of our female competitors that we're brown belts. Remember, can't do an arm bar. Remember, can't do an arm bar. And one of them actually got arm barred at a tournament. And then the girl still won. The other girl, they still gave her equal. I was like, hey, excuse me, I thought arm bars were illegal now. Like, what happened? So I get this whole thing of like, were they trying to protect the women or something? But in my opinion, when they did that, when it was for the adults, for that all the way up to brown belts, they couldn't do arm bars, they were setting us back, because they're setting our ladies up for failure almost, because you're not going to be used to doing arm bars again. You can't be throwing and going in arm bar automatically. You're not defending it at a big tournament. What's happening when you go to an international tournament? What happens if you go to a national tournament and other women are doing arm bars to you? You're not going to be used to it. So I remember Naka did that a really weird thing too for a little while. They took out arm bars and like no one understood why they did it. And they didn't give a good excuse of why. Maybe some woman got hurt with an arm bar or someone didn't tap, but that's not everyone's fault. That's that player's fault. Yeah, that was a really weird one that happened too. You weren't here at that time. You weren't living out here at that. Yeah. But that was a really weird one too. So yeah, they'll do stuff like that also. Like they're trying to protect the kids from getting their heads, or they're going to protect these ladies they thought from getting arm bars, which is a little sexist and not fair. You know, let them get their arm cranked just like the men do. You know, who cares? We can all survive. Now with that, they have adults. Is there any other throws that are banned for that aren't IGF banned but are locally banned that you know of, Anthony?
No, not that I know of.
Okay, so let's move on to now adults. So as we talked about before, now this was an IGF thing. Now this was IGF recommended that for all senior competitors, that was 50 and up, was it?
Yep.
Do you remember? It was 50 and up can no more do harakajime. So no more chokes.
No chokes. Just not harakajime, just chokes.
Just chokes.
Chokes in general.
I think harakajime is just a joke in general.
All chokes.
Yeah, but all chokes in general aren't for 50 and up aren't allowed. And their excuse was that because as you get older, they don't want you to lose more brain cells. Your blood flow's going to go and create more damage.
It's not that. It's actually,
what was it?
They had data showing, well, actually they had a couple of incidents where senior people had, what do you call it? Arterial dissection. Dissection. They had a stroke from arterial dissection. Basically, let me look up the medical term for it.
Okay.
Basically, you get a stroke. It increases as you get older. It increases your chance of having a stroke. It basically pops open your blood vessel, basically, and a clot forms. And that makes sense. You're strangling your arteries here, right? So it does make sense. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for it, but people were arguing, saying, oh, that's so stupid, they're bad. I'm just like, dude, we talked about it last the episode where we mentioned it. Like, if you want to take that risk, then go compete in a 50+ category, right? So I'm okay with the ban, especially since this is kind of like an unknown, and we're just starting to see research paper and correlations happening. So I think banning it ahead of time, given the data that we have now, it is really prudent. Because I mean, judo is always plays things really safe, right? They don't want people dying on the mats from this. Like going back to Shintaro, when he had that stroke announcement, first thing I thought of was like, man, I know he's been training BJJ. He's a brown belt now, I think, because I don't think chokes occur often enough in judo for someone like him to get a stroke from it. But I know he did train BJJ, so I'm like, oh man, is it that? Like, if you look on the BJJ subreddit, there was a discussion about it a while back, but apparently what he had was not arterial dissection. It was a embolic stroke. So what happened was he had like a blood clot that formed somewhere else in his body, and it broke loose somehow and travels to the brain via the bloodstream. So the clot traveled through the bloodstream to his brain, and he got a stroke that way. So that's not related. Well, as far as we know, based off of the information we have now, is that it's not related to the BJJ strangle kind of stroke.
Okay.
So that's I think it's okay to ban the chokes for veterans, but if they start banning that for before more data comes out and they start banning that for like adults, novices and stuff like that, I've already seen a couple of tournaments where they banned chokes for adult novices, and I'm not okay with that if that's the case.
Yeah. See, I get it, 50+. I get it. I understand that, you know. And plus, there's not a whole lot of competitors that are doing tournaments at 50+ anyways. But when you get to your home dojo, how many people are enforcing that? Like, how old are you? Are you 50 yet? Are you 55, 52, 53? How old are you? Okay. All right. I'm going to choke you. I'm not going to choke you. So that's where it gets a little hard and complicated. So I like how judo's trying to be safe. That we're always trying to be safe. So with this one, like if there's things showing that this can happen, I'm okay with it for 50+. But like you said, if it starts being like, oh, well, let's move it down to 45 and older. Oh, let's move it down to 40s. Let's go down to 30s. It's like, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah. With that
and to
said,
me, like I always think it's
sorry.
Well, here's a little funny thing to me. I always think it's just my dumb caveman head thinking, but I always think it's funny. I hear about a judo player getting a blood clot. And it's like, how do we get blood clots? We get thrown and tossed so much all the time. We shouldn't be able to have blood clots in our body.
Well, there's a lot of things we don't know. Blood clots can be anything from your diets to genetics to anything. So you can get blood clots from sitting on a plane too long. You know that? On your legs?
Yeah. You're supposed to walk around or something, right?
Yeah. So it's a lot of stuff that we don't know. So it's what I don't like, and I mentioned it before, is how the IJF bans all these stuff like reverse seoi bans the chokes for veterans, and they cite like injury concerns, and they have data supporting this, yet they don't release that data or give some sort of reason. Like it's just, okay, you say it's bad, but how bad is it? Like, prove it to us that it was bad enough that we need to ban it. So they're just like, no, we're just going to ban it. No reason given, basically, just because we say it's dangerous. You just got to trust us. So I don't like that. So there's that. So speaking of which, the arterial dissection types of strokes, that's also what happens if you go to a chiropractor. There's a chance of that happening. I mentioned before, I'm going to get a lot of shit for it. I'm pretty sure because I know there is at least one listener that's a chiropractor. And many of my friends that train go to chiropractors. And I know for a fact there's one sensei in the area that's a chiropractor. But
coming for us.
I have to I feel like I have to let people know that chiropractors are not doctors. Number one, they are not regulated in the United States. I think in some European countries they're better regulated. Like you need a proper license to become a chiropractor, but here they're basically, for lack of a better word, I don't want to compare it to a nutritionist because nutritionist even requires less training. Like a nutritionist is different from a dietitian. And I think we talked about that before.
Shit.
But chiropractors here are not doctors. You can find a lot of research papers and examples done of people getting their necks adjusted by chiropractors, and they get this arterial dissection because literally popping that neck pops an artery and it basically causes a stroke. And I think a girl was recently paralyzed from it. But you can look it up. It's everywhere. And any kind of doctor will recommend you not to go see a chiropractor for that reason. Just putting that out there. I've told some of my friends this, and they're just like, well, my chiropractor is different. He knows what he's doing. So so I'm not even gonna.
You also got to give people the story that you, as a young man, when you were younger, you had some multiple sclerosis. Your back was, and your parents got duped into doing a lot of chiropractic. You felt now did nothing to you and just took your parents' money. So you have firsthand experience with bad chiropractic practice.
I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. Like getting your neck cracked felt good, and also it felt like a massage, right? So go get a massage. If you feel things are hurting and tight, go see a physical therapist. And also you need to see a good physical therapist. Like I'm probably gonna talk in an episode. Maybe I'll invite my physical therapist up for an episode. He's really good. But you have to, I highly recommend you go see a physical therapist and avoid a chiropractor. And if you find a good physical therapist, actually my physical therapist costs just as much as, maybe cheaper than a chiropractor session. And he made me feel better. Like the chiropractor, he'll make you feel good, right after the session for a bit. And then you tend to go back to what it felt like. But my physical therapy sessions, they tend to last long. Do you know what I'm saying? It's always improving. They're always improving unless they get hurt again. Right. But, and there's a lot of science behind physical therapy saying it works versus chiropractor, which is kind of woo woo stuff. All right.
Well, I feel we're getting a little bit. I think we're getting a little off topic here. We're supposed to talk about band moves and why they're banned and stuff. I wanted to talk about the big ones, and that's why we talked about these things. And because people ask us as senseis at dojo, and we've had some questions online about why are these moves banned that aren't banned by the IGF. And your local Udanjikai or your local community place that you guys train at stuff might ban certain moves because they feel it's dangerous. And it's always good to ask them why. So you kind of also helps you to figure out what makes it dangerous to make it. How can I fix it for me? And like we talked for me and Anthony, for when it comes to koshi guruma or drop seoi nagi for kids, we teach our kids to do very good forward kemis. And I always tell the kids also, even at big tournaments, when I have to talk to them, it's just a tournament. If you feel you're going to be thrown, just go with the throw. And I tell the adults too, you're not getting paid for this. None of it. We're paying for this. We're not getting paid for this. So just go with the throw. And when it comes to the adults with arm bars and stuff and we're chokes, we're doing this for your safety as much as possible. We're trying to make judo a safe sport. That's why you don't hear a lot of stories about judo players getting paralyzed and stuff. And that's why you see a lot of people in their 50s, 60s, 70s still on the mat doing judo. They got miles on them, but they can still do judo and stuff. And with the older guys with the chokes, that's what the IGF wants. And that's more just when it's getting enforced at tournaments. And you please take this upon yourself to maybe try to do this at your own dojo, because there's science behind this that Anthony's actually shown that this does create blood clots and can create a stroke. And we all don't want that.
So is there anything else?
No. Go.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the Kosen Judo thing real quick.
Okay.
Just one thing I forgot is people don't remember that Kosen Judo in Japan is always a team format tournament. There's no single like stuff, if you know what I mean. So just keep that in mind, that pulling guard and stalling and forcing a draw, like, draw so you both get eliminated kind of thing, kind of like quintet, is like a strategy in Kosen Judo. So just throw that out there.
That's actually pretty good. You brought up there quintet. If anybody's seen quintet, quintet's a little bit based off what Kosen Judo is supposed to be, except quintet focuses more towards BJJ rules to give them the advantage.
Again, the quintet has a referee enforcement problem. That's
like, yeah. Yeah. Like in quintet, they're not supposed to be able to pull guard, but all of them do pull guard still. That's a whole different episode. I'm going to talk sock rubber myself. But so is there anything else you want to talk about, Anthony, or is that it for today?
Oh, no, there's one other rule set I want to discuss was like freestyle judo.
Do you? Okay, let's talk about it then.
So
what do you want to talk about?
So you know freestyle judo, right? But I think a lot of people, I'm on a roll at.
Well, here's the thing. We don't know if freestyle judo is still going to be around because, like I was telling Anthony last episode or maybe 2 episodes ago, I was looking to see like what are they going to do it again at this year's United States USA Judo Nationals, because that's what they had it last year, and there's nothing about it.
They had freestyle. That's submission grappling. That's different from freestyle.
Oh, submission.
Judo.
Oh, sorry. Freestyle judo. No, it's freestyle judo. God, I'm getting all these ultimate judo.
Yeah. Freestyle judo is Steve Scott's thing. Like, right?
Yeah. The guy from Orange County? Is that the guy from Orange County, San Diego?
He's from Kansas City.
Kansas City? Steve Scott.
He's Welcome Mat Judo Club.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people think when they think of freestyle, they think old school judo rules, just with leg grabs, more newaza and stuff. But I ask you guys, have you guys read the rules, right? So so have you read the rules? Because people glorify a little bit, and I was wondering, like, why are many people, including our sensei, lament like grabs being banned, right? And not going to get into that discussion again, but I asked them, I'm like, I've asked several senseis this, like, what's wrong with freestyle judo then? Because freestyle judo is not widely available. I think there's only one place in California I know that actually quote unquote teaches it, and is a really small club far away. So it's not accessible to everyone. So I asked them what's wrong with freestyle judo, and most of them have been saying like, well, if they were just doing IJF rules with leg grabs like they did back then, I'd be okay with it. But they're just making yet another rule set, like just like Kosen Judo, just like some submission grappling. They're just making yet another rule set to further divide up judo, and the rule set's like point based, right? So I think you can win by like a spread. What is that what they call it in wrestling? So there's that, and then like instead of Ippon Wazari Yuko, you have like points that you can get, and also I think there's a hard cap timer system for newaza. So when you're on the floor doing newaza, you there's like a hard cap. So if the hard cap, I don't know what the hard cap was, but let's say it's 20 seconds. If it took you 20 seconds to almost land that arm bar, but you need an extra 2 seconds to finish it, then you're just like screwed. You get stood up. Or I guess nothing happens for like, you just close guard, then you're going to do close guard for 20, like nothing happens. You're just in close guard waiting for it to be stood up, but you have to wait the full 20 seconds. So I kind of agree with that. But yeah, I would love to see something, just again, bring back Yuko, and just have leg grabs, like just make that like a local tournament option instead of having Kosen Judo. Again, we talked about Kosen Judo this episode again, and it's about how it's still new. We got to give it time for them to straighten everything out. Why don't they just make it old school? I mean, the Kodokan has their tournaments still have no leg grabs, but they have Yukos. They still call Yukos for All Japan. So why not just bring back the old rules with Yuko and leg grabs and just like call it a day? Like it's already well established. Everyone knows the rules. It's just everything's the same. You just have leg grabs. I think that would be I would be interested in signing up for that.
See, I would too. I think the reason this is, I think that this new modern day thing where everybody wants to make up their own style. Everyone wants to create their own style of martial art. No one wants to do their style. Everyone wants to do they're like, oh, well, I mixed judo with sambo, so I'm going to call it Ju Sambo or something, Ju Sambo. Or they'd be like, I want to change it up my own way. So I'm assuming this is just theory. If they're going to call it freestyle judo, the first thing I think of that they probably was a wrestler. Yeah. And they wanted to mix freestyle wrestling with judo. And then when I saw the point system, I was like, oh, this is just like wrestling. So you get 2 points for a takedown. If it's a big throw, you get 3 points. So now you got Greco wrestling inside of that. Oh, now if you take the guy's back, you get 1 point. If you get that guard, it's another point. So it's like mixing wrestling stuff with judo. And it's just in my opinion, and actually your opinion too, it's just making things more complicated. One of the best things about judo that I've always loved about judo is how simple we are. Okay. There was so Ippon is full point. Wazari's half point. And we had Yuko, which was quarter of a point, but technically not. I like them more how someone said it was, I used it. Who did I steal it from? Yeah, I can't remember. But it's like how BJJ had that advantage, and that's how I like it. It's very simple like that. And if you have Koka, it's another advantage. So it's like you did something and it shows you did something, So I get that. And if they add, like you said, if we added those point systems to this, or just goes back to old school rules and let people do what they want, not let them do what they want to do, but do these old school things, yes, I can accept that. But yeah, we don't need more new judo systems or grappling styles and stuff. People learn new rule sets, how to teach these refs how to do new rule sets, these coaches do a new rule set. How about we just go back and bring back stuff instead? Like call it Kano Judo or something. And it's like, oh, they're just adding
Kano Jiu-Jitsu.
Kano Jiu-Jitsu, yeah.
No, that's you're just joke, but yeah.
Oh, they're bringing back Kokas. Oh, great. They're bringing back Yukos. Okay, and I'm allowed to do leg grabs. It makes it more easier and simpler that way. Other than this system here is like 2 points for a takedown. I'm just making stuff up. Yeah, it's like a point for a takedown, a point for a throw, a point. Let me read
it real quick because I just pulled it up and I just remembered they also give you points for passing guard and stuff.
Yeah, they took that.
Yeah, it's not at that point. It's not judo anymore to me. At least it's something else. So you can still win by ippon, like traditional ippon, like strangle, choke, throw, big throw. But there's a superior decision, 12 point spread in the score example. One athlete has 14 points and another opponent has 2 points. So if there's 12 point difference, then you win by just like dominating the other person. Decision by having more points than the other person at the end of match time, overtime, blah, blah, blah. Same thing. 4 points for a Wazari, basically. 4 points for 20 seconds Osaikomi, like for a 20-second pin. 2 points for a Yuko. 2 points for a 10-second pin, and 1 point for a Koka. So they're bringing back Koka in this case. 1 point for a pin for 5 seconds, 5 to 10, less than 10 seconds. So 5-second pin to 10-second pin is 1 point. Like why? Like I don't understand. 1 point for a sweep, like a BJJ sweep, right? Like turning the guy over. 1 point for a guard pass. Yeah, so it's just I don't know. I understand now why, because when I was orange belt was when I heard about freestyle judo, and I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. Like old school rules, leg grabs, blah blah blah. But I never read the rules, and now that I read the rules the other day, like I'm just like, okay, that totally makes sense. Why, because I wouldn't be interested.
Catch on.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't be interested in training or competing in that kind of tournament. And I know I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers.
Yeah, but it's fine because there's so much to remember and learn. And if it was, the whole thing about judo is that we're simple, we're direct to the point. That's one thing people love about judo. And with the freestyle judo, just they're naming the points. How are these refs going to remember all this stuff? We don't even have that many things in wrestling. Okay,
I was going to say that's the other thing. Like we were talking about refs being, again, lack of a better word, being a problem because it's their enforcement. It's easy to just tell them, okay, we're bringing Yukos back and you allow leg grabs. Same, everything else the same. Versus, okay,
we're bringing Yukos back.
This is this point.
Yeah.
They also have different hand signals for the scores too.
We're bringing back Kokas, we're bringing back Koka. So any attack that's to the ground is a Koka, or something. Just it's just that you can make it much more simpler. But I do appreciate people trying stuff. I do appreciate people trying to grow judo and get it more out there. But we don't need to make things overcomplicated. If anything, we need to make things less complicated. So, anything else after that, Anthony?
No, unless there's other rule sets. Yeah. So in the end, summarize. It is what it is. We just have to deal with what we're given. Again, not going to talk about leg grabs. I understand. Again, I understand the point of views of both sides of people that are saying we should ban this, we shouldn't ban this, for kids mainly. But I think that there's a third option, I think, which is just teach better judo, better regulate people teaching judo or something. And like one thing would be require everyone to be able, like if we have a standardized testing, that's another thing we didn't mention when we talked about why there's a difference between this side of the pond and that side of the pond, is we don't have standardized testing here. Well, I mean, people argue, oh yeah, but there's the USJA standards, but who follows it, right? I actually argued someone on Reddit the other day saying like, well, our club follows it. I'm like, well, I can tell you, the 6-7 clubs I've traveled to, they didn't have their own thing. They don't follow the USJA guidelines. Versus I know in UK, most people follow through the British Judo Association's grading guidelines. So maybe there they have a better quality control of how people perform these techniques. So, let's go on a tangent again. So there's that. And also, I think that's it, right?
Yeah. Before we get in more deep water, we're getting more hot water, I think, actually. We're already in the deep end. Now we're getting the boiling ends next. All right. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on YouTube at Tatami Talk. You can follow us on Twitch at Tatami Talk. We stream the tournament on the 16th, I believe it is. You can follow me at the Jerry _Juan on Instagram. You can follow Anthony throws on Instagram. If you guys have any questions, things you want us to go over, things you want us to talk about, things like questions we had today about why certain things are banned in judo here in the US and other countries, you can hit us up at tatamitalk@gmail.com. Anthony, is there anything else?
Yeah, I want to get some. Like you mentioned, I'm not very familiar with what everyone's countries do. So I know we have listeners from all over the world. So let us know if your local organization bans certain techniques for novices or kids, because I'm curious and like to know more about that. Yep.
All right. And with that, Anthony, don't forget to
slap the mat.